Welcome back, everybody. After a long day touring one of our commercial development properties, we decided to stop off and have some dinner before we hit the road back up to Orlando. And wanted to take a few minutes to chat with Rick and some of the other members of the team, but specifically Rick, real estate certainly is more than just bricks and mortar, quite frankly. It's more than just dirt, it's more than just fixing and flipping or rental properties. You have to think outside of the box, and it certainly requires a team to make everything happen, to bring it all together. So we decided to stop off at this Irish pub today, and we're going to chat with Rick briefly about an acquisition that we've taken down recently in Ireland. Couldn't be any more perfect, thinking outside the box about this specific project. Rick, you've got some exceptional looking paperwork there. Stacks piled high and deep.
Yeah.
But share with us one of these interesting projects, especially this one that's, we happen to be in an Irish pub, by the way, so this deal is appropriate. This is in Ireland. I believe it is Kilcooley is the name of this, Kilcooley Abbey Estates, actually. So we're going to kind of cover some ground here, learn about an interesting development that goes back into 1780s, 1790s, and we've got some of that history right here.
Well, obviously we've had a long day already, so we figured it would be a perfect setting to have a nice dinner in an Irish pub as we talk about an Irish project. Actually, one of the key components, and I'll say it again and again, our organization primarily focuses on doing residential, commercial, and all types of out-of-the-box investments in the U.S. But because of some relationships that we've established over the years, we've had the opportunity to go overseas and do some really interesting transactions. Now, when you were talking about being out of the box, this is definitely probably one of the most out-of-the-box transactions that we've been a part of. And it all started once again with the key to having the right team in place, the right management team, and the right acquisition team involved, which enabled us to negotiate a very historic type of project. Now, I don't want to go into too much of the details of the project, but what I do want to show you is this is actually the legal description. The solicitors, which is what they're called in Ireland, which are actually attorneys here in the U.S., when you do a transaction, they're also responsible for not only writing what we know here as the legal description, but also drawing out the actual plot of the location, kind of like a survey. So what you're looking at here is actually kind of a footprint of the actual property that we were involved in. And what you're looking at is over 1,250 acres of land. And in addition to that, and I think I could probably show you a couple of pictures, there's actually a castle that have been developed in this particular place. So these are just some pictures of the location and some of the historic elements that are still in this property today. So it's a really cool acquisition. Now, this project actually was interesting, was actually a two-piece transaction. The first piece was what we call the leasehold. It's actually the land that has a ground lease over the actual buildings, which is called the freehold. So the first step to this particular project was taking control of the land. With our acquisitions team that have been in the business for a very long time, who have contacts, we were able to get some really good inside information about this particular project. In fact, I want to point here, this is actually the appraisal that was done November of 2005, where the land alone had been valued at over 12 million euros. What's interesting enough is that when we actually got to the bottom line of the negotiations, the leasehold was purchased for 875,000 euros. So as you can see, we were looking for a very, very strong value play. Now, the reality is, all into the entire project, we were looking at being approximately 1.9 million euros in this particular project. So what do you do when you're buying into a castle and some land somewhere out there overseas? And that's the big question most people ask. Well, the reason why we were drawn to this particular transaction was because of the opportunity within these amazing trees in the property. So what we were able to do that was out of the box is while we had the project under contract and we were negotiating, we actually ended up putting together a deal with a tree harvesting company that basically for a 20-year contract to harvest some of the trees in this particular property line, about 800 acres to be exact, we were able to get over 2 million euros just from that contract, which offset the investment itself. So now here we are with a completely creative transaction that we purchased at a very good price. And it now opens the doors for not only the harvesting transaction, but it opens doors for something else in the future which we're still working on. So this transaction isn't done yet. But it's a really unique transaction because it's one of the only transactions where when you look at the land lease, which is a copy of it, it was written out in 1919, which is really cool. And not to mention, as Sam mentioned, this property was built out in the 1700s, which is pretty impressive. So again, these are just some of the additional tactics that if you have them in your armory, in your arsenal, when an opportunity comes, you're able to restructure the deal and make it a profitable one. And we definitely have done that in this transaction. And again, we could have never done it without the team on the ground in that location that we built a long-term relationship with.